When the original Equinox first rolled onto the scenes back in 2005, it was always kind of a tweener vehicle, bigger than your neighbor's CR-V or RAV4, but not quite as large as vehicles like the Edge or the Kia Sorento. Now, for 2018, Chevy has given the Equinox a full, extensive overhaul, and they've shrunken this car by about 4.5 inches and reduced the weight by 400 pounds. So in an incredibly crowded compact SUV segment, is the all-new Equinox worth a look? Let's take a look and find out. So if you look at Chevrolet's sales numbers, you'll find out that the Equinox is actually the company's second bestseller, behind the Chevrolet Silverado pickup truck, of course. Now, last year, GM was able to sell a little over 250,000 Equinoxes in the United States. Now, that is a very significant amount of sales, so it's a very important model for Chevrolet. You can see for 2018, the company's given this car a pretty heavy overhaul, and it's going in theme with all the other recent Chevrolet redesigns. Chevy's really recently been putting their vehicles on a diet, the Biggest Loser diet, and the Equinox is certainly no exception. When you look at the exterior proportions, Chevy shortened this car by literally 5 inches in the wheelbase and the overall length. It's about an inch shorter in height. Width pretty much stays the same as the old one, but now the Equinox is seriously the same size as your neighbor's Honda CR-V, Mazda CX-5, or Toyota RAV4. Now you can see the design sports the familiar design language that I've showed you guys on a lot of other newer Chevy products like the Cruze, like the Malibu. You have the signature bow tie grille with the split design. You have these skinny headlights with standard LED daytime running lights. My tester, being the up-level Premier, top of the line, gets standard LED headlights with automatic high beams as an option. Now overall, I think the design certainly has some handsome proportions to it. It does look a little bit minivan-like from certain angles. I particularly don't like the wheels on this Premier model. These are the standard 18-inch wheels. They look too small. There is an optional 19-inch wheel as part of like a sun navigation and sound package for $3,000 on the Premier models, which do look a lot better. I highly recommend getting those 19-inch wheels. Now, the rest of the profile has a traditional SUV look to it, with some design or influence or some resemblance to a minivan from certain angles of the rear quarter. The taillights also have, that similar finish as the Malibu. You have full LED taillights on my particular Premier model. No chrome exhaust tips. This is the standard 1.5 turbo engine. The exhausts are actually hidden, which isn't really that big of a deal. But overall, I think a lot of buyers are going to find the proportions to be handsome. It's conservative, not certainly stylish the way like the CX-5 is, or even the new CR-V, which can be a little bit polarizing. But overall, I think the design will age well. But enough about the exterior. Let's take a look at the inside and see how Chevy has changed the interior completely. Because my tester is the top of the line, it does come with the company's smart key access system with push-button start. Here's the new Chevy key fob that I showed you on other Chevy products. It's a nice feeling key. It feels nice in your hands. It does come with remote start. To activate the remote start, just push this lock button, push and hold this button here, and the vehicle starts right up for you. If you want to shut it off, just push this button again, and that shuts off the car for you. Now, first approaching the Equinox, you can see there is a traditional button on the door handle. To push it or to lock the vehicle, just push it. That locks the door for you. To unlock it, there is no sensor on the back of the handle. You have to touch the button again, and that unlocks the door for you. Now, looking at the interior, you can see here the design certainly is very reminiscent of all the newer Chevy products that I've showed you. It has that new tablet style screen. It has some orange stitching in it. My tester, of course, has the black leather. It has the same steering wheel in the Cruze, in the Malibu. It's an attractive looking interior for sure on this top of the line model. Now, stepping inside, it has a very easy step in height, which is why a lot of you end up choosing these compact SUVs. They're just really easy to get in and out of. And shutting the door, it sounds nice and solid, so I didn't really expect anything less. This is an all-new platform. Now, to start the vehicle up, all you have to do is put your foot on the brake and then push the button here to fire up the engine. Now, the gauges, they're pretty much identical to the last Cruze that I showed you and the Malibu. They're handsome, they're clean, there's a small little 5-inch helper screen in the center, and they're pretty easy to read. I'm not terribly a fan of the aqua coloring in the lights. I prefer the red that GMC uses, but, it's a small little gripe. You can see the rest of the interior has a pretty handsome and clean design, modern looking, especially with this tablet-style infotainment screen. Now, the materials in here, they look pretty good. However, when you start touching around, there's a lot of hard touch plastic. Like right here, it's all hard touch plastic. It is nice and leather padded right here where my elbow would probably rest. It's all leather down here. The window is only one touch automatic down for the driver. Only on that side. Everything else is not one touch. But looking at the dash design, also it's got some stitching here with some contrast, which is nice. But up here, it's also hard touch plastic. The grading feels okay, and down here it's also hard touch plastic, but everything in here fits together nicely. I like the bright, you know, shiny aluminum look pieces they're using. It's not too shiny though. Chevy's been able to keep it a little bit more restrained. It's not that chintzy shiny look that GM has been known for in the past. Now the steering wheel, it's the same steering wheel that I showed you guys in the Cruise. It's got a heated function, it's tilt telescoping, the buttons feel good. It's an electric power steering assist. We'll go into the driving dynamics later. But looking at the center stack here again, pretty identical to the Malibu, the Cruise. When you put the vehicle into reverse, you get a nice 360-degree camera. This is what GM added for this new generation. It's part of a confidence package and convenience package on the Premier models. It's nice. It gives you trajectory. It gives you distance markers. You've got parking sensors, I believe, as well. And it definitely helps you with parking this vehicle. Not all the competitors in this segment offer the around view camera system. Now, looking at the infotainment system here, you can see it's a touchscreen. It's an 8-inch touchscreen display. When you hit the home button here, you get all your usual sources and whatnot. You have your OnStar. This vehicle does have a wireless hotspot. Projection is the Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, which this vehicle includes, which is also pretty nice. The screen, it's pretty responsive. It's, you know, GM's been doing a good job with updating this. Honestly, I think it works better than the Cadillac Q system, which should be the other way around. GM is working on overhauling Q entirely, but when you go to the nav function here, this one, does not have navigation. Because you have to add that Sun sound and navigation package to actually get nav. Instead, you'd have to call OnStar and they would probably put some kind of nav system here, or you can also just use the Apple CarPlay and put up the, you know, Apple Maps in there if you want to get nav. So technically you don't really need nav, but it's still a nice feature to have. In-car nav is still nice to have when you don't have signal. Now looking down here, you can see this one has dual zone automatic climate control. It has heated and cooled seats, so that's somewhat of a rarity in this class. It's nice to have. Down here you also have a new wireless charging pad. Your connection down here would be for your phone. There's also 2 USB ports, an aux port, and a power outlet down there. Now this gear lever controls the 6-speed automatic. It's the only transmission available on this engine right now. There is a new 9-speed automatic coming for the 2-liter turbo engine, and the diesel will have a 6-speed automatic as well. It's got the traditional PRNDL. It does have a manual mode. When you put into low, you use this rocker thing to use manual mode. There's no paddles on the wheel, of course. There is an electronic parking brake. Now down here, the cup holders are good. There's some decent storage down here. And the armrest is nice and padded. There's pretty good storage in there, and then 2 more USB ports. Now, looking above you, my Tester doesn't have a sunroof. There is a pano sunroof available, again, as part of that sunroof package for $3,000. You do have some more buttons down here. There's some nice LED lighting in the cabin. Looking at the glove compartment here, it's damped. It's a decent size, not lined with felt. But overall, the interior is certainly not going to really offer any surprises. It's pretty class competitive, and it's going in theme with GM's current design language, which is pretty nice. I think it'll age well. It'll be comfortable. It'll be easy to use for most people. Looking at the rear seat of the Equinox, you can see it's also a pretty generous amount of space. I would say it's right up there with the class leaders. I love the fact that it has a flat floor in the center, so you could actually theoretically put 3 people across. But, you know, getting back here, you can see the step-in height is nice. There is plenty of legroom here for my 5'7" frame. There's plenty of foot space underneath the front seats. I could literally sit back here and cross my legs, so that's pretty nice. And when you shut the door, it sounds just as good as the front. It's all hard touch plastic here with some more stitching and leather on the armrest portion. I'm happy to see that Chevy does give you vents back here, and there's heated seats as well, and 2 USB ports and a power outlet. So again, they're really throwing in the features back here for your screaming kids who need to charge their phones. There's also 2 map pockets here as well, and there's an armrest that folds down, and the seats are again 60-40 split to give you that added level of versatility. Now my Tester has a power tailgate. It does have the hands-free function. If you want to stick your foot underneath the tailgate, it'll open up for you. Now you can see, you would think that because this vehicle is significantly smaller, you lose cargo space. Surprisingly, you didn't. You still have about 30 cubic feet of space with the seats up. Fold down these seats and you're going to get about 63 cubic feet of space. Now that is less than what you get in the new CR-V, like 10 cubic feet less, so you have to keep that in mind. But overall, it's still a pretty nice amount of space that's usable. Now when you look underneath here, Chevy actually still gives you a temporary spare tire, so that's nice. Some competitors make you pay extra for it, or they give you a fix-a-flat kit. Underneath the hood of the new Equinox, Chevy will actually offer this car with 3 different engines. Right now, we're only going to get one at the time. This is the company's 1.5-liter EcoTech turbocharged direct injection 4-cylinder. It's the same motor that we know in the Chevrolet Malibu as the base motor. Now, in this application, it makes 170 horsepower and 203 pound-feet of torque, which are class competitive numbers. It's just interesting because if you guys remember, the original Equinox was launched with a V6 only, and now it's all a 4-cylinder lineup. So you can definitely see that Chevy has changed with the times. Now, this vehicle weighs around 3,300 pounds. It's rated at 2632 on regular gas. This particular one that I'm showing you is front-wheel drive. All-wheel drive is like an $1,800 option, and all routes power through a 6-speed automatic transmission. But let's get out on the road and see how it all works, shall we? Now, I never had the opportunity to actually do a full video on the old Equinox or its, twin, the GMC Terrain. However, I definitely had my fair, times of driving them as rental cars, and I always found them to be quiet, competitive vehicles that were definitely a lot bigger than a lot of its competitors. They just aren't very memorable to me. However, with this new one, Chevy's made it a lot lighter, a lot smaller. It's got now an all-turbo 4-cylinder lineup. So let's see how it actually does when you get out on the road. Now, the old Equinox, most of them actually came with V6 engines. If you remember the first generation, it actually only came with a V6. So it's interesting to see that Chevy's only offering it with a turbo 4-cylinder lineup. They're definitely going with the times. And this 1.5-liter 4-cylinder turbo is a fine motor. It's not going to win any drag races. It's not the most refined. It's not the most potent motor offering. Obviously, there's going to be a 2-liter above this, but when you put your foot down, you definitely feel the fact that this engine is not, particularly powerful. I mean, 170 horsepower is not much. It's got 203 pound-feet of torque, which is more than what the CR-V offers. However, the Honda gives you more horsepower. But I just found that the engine can get a little buzzy. It's not the most refined when you get up in the upper rev ranges. However, the power is surprisingly linear. It does taper off when you get closer to the, past 5,000 RPM, which is normal of a turbo motor. But really, my biggest disappointment is the 6-speed auto. It's incredibly sluggish to shift. I wish there was like a sport mode. I wish that there was something to make it a little bit more lively. Chevy's got a new 9-speed automatic that'll be, showing in the new Malibu, in the 2017 Malibu. I would have preferred to see that transmission in this car. So I expect to see them add it, in the next couple or short years. Now, there's no Redline on the tach, but the transmission seems to short shift at like 5,800 RPM just before 6, and that's really where the power starts to taper off. This car feels like it would get to 60 in like 8 seconds. It definitely feels a lot more sluggish than its competitors. There's not really any test data, so I'm kind of estimating based on feel. As I said earlier, the engine gets pretty buzzy, but this isn't a sports sedan. It's not the sportiest offering, obviously. I definitely had my fair share of fun with the Subaru Forester XT. If you're looking for the most fun to drive, buy that one with the turbo. Honestly, that's my recommendation. But when you're driving this thing normally, how does it excel just as a family vehicle? And this is where the Equinox really shines. The ride quality is just excellent. This is better than what I experienced in the Forester. About on par with the new CR-V. Haven't driven the new CX-5 yet. Hope to get that vehicle to test soon. But it's just incredibly quiet in here. The ride is incredibly controlled. It's refined. The steering is nice and smooth, linear. It's very numb, so this isn't sporty by any means. But when you're just driving it normally, even on back roads, you're going to find that this is a very relaxed drive. You can kind of just get into it and just, let your problems get kind of melted away into the absorption of the suspension and whatnot. But when you start going through corners, the Equinox isn't bad. It's not unsafe by any measures. It's just not particularly engaging. I would really be curious to try this out with the diesel, with the upgraded 2-liter turbo. That will be the one, I guess, if you're looking for better acceleration. This 1.5 should probably satisfy about 90% of you buyers out looking in this particular class of vehicle. Now, one area that this vehicle really disappoints me on is the fact that there's no adaptive cruise control. Chevy doesn't even offer it at any price. I don't understand why. It's standard on the Toyota RAV4, and pretty much all CR-V trims have it if you buy an EX trim and up, and most of the Mazda trims are going to probably have it as well, especially since all of you buy the Grand Touring model anyway. So it's a little confusing to me as to why they don't offer adaptive cruise. Every other vehicle in this segment offers adaptive cruise. I hope Chevy fixes that fault in the next couple of years. The visibility in here is pretty damn good. I mean, you have these good side mirrors, you have blind spot monitoring with your cross traffic alert, there's a good view out of the front, good view out of the back, the seats are comfortable. I mean, there's really not much to complain. It's just a really pleasant car. It's a little bit boring, to be honest. There's definitely a lot more fun choices out there, but if that's what your cup of tea is, I would highly recommend taking a look at the refreshed or redesigned 2018 Chevrolet Equinox. Now, one thing this vehicle does have is standard automatic start-stop. You can't shut it off. However, Chevy's system is pretty damn good. I honestly don't even notice it when it shuts off, and then when you let off the brake, the engine restarts pretty seamlessly. Now, when you do floor it from a stop and then turn the wheel, of course it's going to spin its front tires because this one is front wheel drive, but you know, it's not bad. Again, you heard a little bit of that unpleasant buzzing noises, so I'm a little disappointed to hear that, but overall most of you aren't going to drive like that. You're just going to drive it like at 80%, never really push it as hard as I do. I'm doing it because I want to try to expose any weaknesses in the car and give you guys an idea of what this vehicle is like at full throttle conditions. But anyways, let's talk about a couple of numbers here. The fuel economy has been much improved for this generation, especially with the big weight loss. My tester is rated at 26 in the city, 32 on the highway. Now, on the highway, I was able to match that 32 mpg rating, which is good. And in the city, I got about 25, 24 miles per gallon. So it's a pretty efficient motor, especially with that start-stop that's always engaging. You're going to be, you know, getting better fuel economy than me, especially if you guys drive a lot more conservatively. There's no fuel economy information on the 2-liter turbo. The diesel is supposed to get 40 mpg. I wouldn't be surprised to see that do better, honestly, than the 40 mpg. Now, let's talk a little about the pricing, because I mentioned this as a negative in my Redline top 5. Now, the Equinox starts at $23,500, which is right in line with a lot of its competitors. Some of them are $500 more, $500 less. That's for a base L model in front-wheel drive. You probably aren't going to buy that one. In fact, you can't even find them on dealer lots. You have to actually order that to get the base model. One trim level above it is the LS. It's like $2,000 more. It doesn't really give you any more equipment. It gives you like a spare tire and like carpeted floor mats for $2,000. I don't know what Chevy was thinking with that pricing. The LS does give you the ability to add all-wheel drive, which is like $1,800 extra to get all-wheel drive. Most of you will probably end up with the LT trim. That starts at like $29,000. You have the option of getting a sunroof and the driver confidence and convenience package on that trim, which can push the price over $30,000 easily. Still doesn't come with leather. The Premier model is the only one that gives you leather. My tester has that confidence and convenience package, which gives you heated and cooled seats, forward collision alert with pedestrian detection, automatic braking, lane departure alert with active steering, you know, all those other features on there. It's about $2,000 to get that. If you want all-wheel drive, it actually comes standard with that equipment package already, which is why it starts at like $34,000. Now, my tester with that convenience and driver confidence package stickers for $33,700, which is honestly pretty expensive considering it doesn't have nav, it doesn't have a sunroof, it doesn't have adaptive cruise control. Fully loaded CRVs are top out at around $34,000, and if you want a fully loaded CX-5, that's like $31,000, $32,000. So Chevy's asking a lot of money. Now, if you wanted to build this car fully loaded with all-wheel drive, with the $3,000 nav and sunroof and 19-inch wheel package, you're looking at close to $40,000, which is a ridiculous amount of money. The Ford Escape can touch 40 grand. The Subaru Forester is around $36,000. Honestly, if I was going to spend over $35,000, I would get the Forester because it's the quickest accelerating. But there's definitely certain things to like. This has heated and cooled seats. It offers a pano sunroof as well. You know, and some of those features, if that's super important to you, if your more relaxed ride is more important to you, that's going to be, you know, a deciding factor for you. Now, typically with American cars, they do offer a lot of incentives and rebates. If you look at Ford, they offer like $3,000 in rebates on the Escape, which can easily drop the price to Japanese levels at that point. I imagine Chevy will do that soon. Right now they're not because this just came out, so you're going to be paying a pretty penny if you guys want, you know, the all-new 2018 Chevrolet Equinox. So with all that said, I hope you have enjoyed my full overview of this 2018 Chevrolet Equinox Premier. If you're looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, make sure you follow me on Instagram at Redline_reviews. Like us on Facebook. If you haven't done so, please subscribe to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I'll catch you all in the next video.